With Mickey 17 releasing, a film that the world has been dying to see finally release in theaters, it felt like the perfect time to shed a light and dig deeper into the two sides of one of the greatest modern directors, Bong Joon-Ho, a filmmaker who releases something shockingly original each and every time with such a command in his craft. He is a multi-dimensional director who has consistently challenged his own sensibilities to keep innovating. What makes Bong original is how he has released films in his native language Korean as well as English, and his films in these two languages are vastly different, to the point where it feels like a different director at times making these films. Let's dig deeper into these two facets of Bong Joon-Ho and the duality of a modern master.
Thank you. I will drink until next morning. Thank you.
자막, 서브타이틀의 장벽도 아니죠. 한 1인치 정도 되는 그 장벽을 뛰어넘으면 여러분들이 훨씬 더 많은 영화를 즐길 수 있습니다.
Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films.
This quote held a lot of power and was one that was said during Parasite's award race run, which led to the film being the first international movie to win the coveted Best Picture Academy Award. Parasite is a masterpiece that was hugely influential and made international films, especially ones in a language other than English, feel more accessible to audiences across the world. It felt like the culmination of 2 decades of incredible work from Bong, where he honed his craft through consistent experimentation. We will get back to Parasite later, but before we get there, let's talk about the difference in his Korean and English films and circle back to how he combined the two to become the multi-time Oscar winner and earning a name that commands instant respect. Bong Joon-ho's films utilizing the Korean language tend to showcase a combination of comedy leading to a thriller. His ability and command of his craft, where he can switch genres so seamlessly, is one of the reasons he is a special and unique filmmaker. These films, if we want to make comparisons, evoke the snappy dialogue at times, utilized by a filmmaker like Quentin Tarantino, with a vibe and energy somewhat similar to the works of David Fincher. I have found within his Korean films, key themes like class division and socioeconomic status play really heavy within these films, as he utilized power dynamics, interpersonal interactions, and ignorance as way of communicating these themes. His first film is where we begin to see that. Barking Dogs Never Bite is a very raw directorial debut that may not be his best work by any means, but instantly shows his ability to weave in some real tragic storytelling with a funky, jazzy feel where once again, it feels like a silly comedy at first until it gets a lot darker in tone. With the context of knowing the trajectory of his career and the films he made after this, Barking Dogs Never Bite feels like the beginning of the ideas that get expanded upon in films like Okja or Parasite. The second feature from Bong, Memories of Murder, was the film that really started to put him on the map. This is easily one of the best detective thrillers ever made, and here we really get to see a little more of that Fincher-esque style work its way into his films. The film has you guessing who the killer will be right up until its final moments, with this slow build to scenes that will be imprinted on your mind, and some of the greatest use of close-ups ever used in a movie. The ending proved to be a reflection on the real murders in which the film investigates and looks to the killer who may still be out there. This is actually a really unique film within Bong's filmography because there is no real change in genre. It stays consistent, and while there may be some moments of levity like the fight scenes with an abundance of dropkicks, it is an incredibly serious film, as it should be. The Host, I would say, is the first film of Bong's that began to show us some themes that take the forefront of his English-speaking films. I think this film personally is one of his most flawed films, but it is something that he builds on and improves on in his late films. The significance of The Host is a little bit of a cautionary tale surrounding the dumping of chemicals into the water and how damaging that is. We do see how if we were to continue damaging the environment as a species, it may one day damage our own existence, and there is nothing we can do to stop it. Bong Joon-ho has fun with this theme by framing it within a monster movie context, but the social issues the film tackles are earnest and at times are communicated very effectively. Mother feels somewhat tonally similar to something like Memories of Murder, with this thriller surrounding a murder that happened. The film dives deep into themes of how people process trauma and how far a mother will go to protect their child. The son in this film is dealing with a mental disability, which adds to both the tension of the narrative and the tragedy of it, as the film slowly provides devastating consequences and revelations for the characters. This also looks at the struggles of someone on the lower end of the scale when it comes to socioeconomic status and the ignorance that plagues those that are higher in these social hierarchies. As you can see, for the most part, Bong's first 4 films in the Korean language focus more within a drama/thriller genre, with comedic moments of levity and huge moments of tragedy. When he transitions over to his first 2 films in the English language, we notice a shift in the way that his films are made, both stylistically and thematically, which only enriches Bong's filmmaking capabilities. His English films have worked primarily within the sci-fi genre, with strong social commentary that may not feel as subtle, but it is still largely effective, and have utilized different themes which Bong Joon-Ho is passionate about. While socioeconomic status and class division has been a central theme in many of Bong's films, his English ones tend to favor a strong environmental message as well. His antagonists become far more outlandish, to the point where it almost feels satirical and far more comedic overall. The first attempt for a film in the English language was definitely a bold one. Snowpiercer, which was the first film of Bong's I ever saw, was his first attempt at breaking into an audience from the Western world. There are many things that are different compared to the other 4 films he made previously. To begin with, it fully embraces the sci-fi genre within this dystopian Earth where a large population live on a train sectioned off by different class systems. Was a very interesting way of providing social commentary. This is where we see some of the differences in his English-speaking films, as he tends to deal with dystopian worlds and work heavily within the sci-fi genre. There is a larger presence with visual effects and a grander scope. Snowpiercer is a brilliant movie, which provides us with one of Chris Evans' best performances. The progression and the twists and turns this film makes are absolutely bone-chilling, and I believe he succeeds in communicating a narrative within the sci-fi genre on a larger scale. Like all of Bong's English-speaking films, he has heavily included an environmental message. The world of Snowpiercer is practically unlivable, as man has destroyed the Earth to the point where it has become unsustainable for a long time. Humanity has become afraid of Mother Nature, and this is what Bong Joon-Ho utilizes with these larger budgets to communicate. Some say the English films were a vehicle to make Bong's films more accessible within Western audiences, which anecdotally I think provided a level of awareness for me to Bong Joon-Ho's work, because Snowpiercer felt like the first of his movies that I found to be far more widely accessible compared to the 4 films he made before that. What Snowpiercer previously built, Okja stacks on top of that in some pretty significant ways. This is once again another sci-fi-esque movie about the connection between a girl and this pig creature, which is being harvested and hunted by a company that wants to create food from these creatures. I think out of all of Bong's filmography, this is perhaps his most harrowing film, and also the most committed he's been to a pro-environmental / animal kingdom message. He manages to sell us on the bond between human and animal, that by the end you see some things that denounces factory farming and the slaughter of animals. I would say this can almost be quite satirical, especially as it explores the characters that are consumed with greed and capitalism. Tilda Swinton's Miranda being the key figure as someone who could not care less about the animal kingdom because that would get in the way of her making money. There is a lot less commentary regarding social status, even if it is still present here, but in Okja you see the pro-environmental themes really take the forefront. These 2 films, Snowpiercer and Okja, are largely some of the more divisive within Bong's filmography, but feel completely different for a multitude of reasons that clearly go beyond the use of the English language. The style is different, his films can feel more satirical, and the key themes are explored in different ways, whether that be a physical representation of class systems, being each carriage in Snowpiercer, or a fictional creature utilized to explore the bond between animal and human. feels quite different from something like Memories of Murder or Mother, which feel like they are much more based in a real world, and in the case of Memories Murder, it is based on a real case. Because of these different framing devices and styles that Bong employs, the social commentary that is still present in both styles is presented in vastly different ways. I think when we get to Parasite, Bong's career-defining film, which swept at the Academy Awards and opened doors for international filmmakers around the world, we begin to see these styles clash, especially when you compare it to something like Okja. Okja strikingly feels like the tone and style that he utilizes for his films in English, and Parasite goes in the complete opposite direction with the Korean language. Parasite really focuses on these class structures and the ignorance of the upper class to the plight that the lower class go through, whether that be rain, which is seen as a blessing from the very rich Park family, but is a curse and floods the house of the Kim family, or how the Park family are completely ignorant to the housekeeper's living arrangements, and how her and her husband do everything they can to just have a taste of the lifestyle that the Park family has. Parasite is a masterpiece for many reasons, but its blend of comedy to a dark thriller and how it easily flows between genre is a key reason why the film is beloved by people all across the world. It is a perfect example that the social commentary is communicated through a combination of well-constructed and purposeful dialogue or visual metaphors within a real-world context that tends to separate his Korean films from his English ones. This all makes a lot of sense with Mickey 17 being released. Just from the trailer and pictures alone, we know it is a style of film we can almost get accustomed to when it comes to Bong's English-speaking films. It seems more light in tone, more satirical, and once again, works within a sci-fi genre. These may be seen as patterns, but it really is such an interesting, stylistic, narrative choice, and makes it so exciting every time a Bong Joon-Ho film releases, because it's not the themes he's exploring that make him a singular filmmaker, it's the many ways he does so in very unpredictable ways, which makes Mickey 17 a film to be really excited about. Bong Joon-Ho is a wonderful filmmaker who will always be appreciated. From a young director creating an indie film like Barking Dogs Never Bite, to making a film with Hollywood stars like Mickey 17, Bong can do it all and is truly one of the best modern directors working today. With an animated film coming after Mickey 17, there is still plenty to look forward to, and I cannot wait to see how many other illustrations we will get to showcase the duality of Bong Joon-Ho.